Good morning, BookTube, YouTube. This is Johnny. Thought I'd make a video. It is a Friday morning here in Southwest Michigan, 9/23, December the 6th. Yeah, I'm kind of hesitant to make this video because my wife could show up anytime because she went out to do PT and errands this morning and she could show up any moment. But I thought what I would do, this is a Friday Reads, what I'm going to read on Friday today. I got out yesterday, the day before, a book. When I did my internship as a ministerial internship in Houston, Texas, back in the 80s, I really got into Thomas Merton. I first read Thomas Merton when I was in high school. I read his autobiography, the Seven-Story Mountain, something like that. My mind just went blank about what the title was. Something like that. But I read it when I was in high school. And Seven-Story Mountain. Yeah, the Seven-Story Mountain was like his autobiography, how he became a Trappist monk. But this is his book. I have a lot of his books that I've collected over the years, used. This is called The Inner Experience, Notes on Contemplation. And this is edited with an introduction by William H. Shannon. Shannon is like an authority on Thomas Merton. I think he's written biographies on him and other books on Thomas Merton. So I've been reading this last night and today, and I have been reading, I showed you this morning for Friday Reads. I want to finish reading in the Carthusian Spirituality, the writings of Hugh Obama and Gaio DuPont. I want to finish his treatise, The Roads to Zion Mourn, and I'm on just the last part. I think I will read Gaio DuPont on Contemplation. So this is my Friday Reads for this morning. Thomas Merton, The Inner Experience, the Notes on Contemplation, and on Carthusian Spirituality. Another book I want to read, as far as nonfiction, I showed you this book over the months, Wonder Confronts Certainty, Russian Writers on the Timeless Questions and Why Their Answers Matter by Gary Saul Morson. I was reading this book and I really highly recommend it if you're into Russian literature, 19th century, 20th century. I didn't finish it. I only got maybe 20, maybe 30 pages left. So I want to finish reading this today because, as you know, I've been reading The Gulag, A History by Anne Appleman. So I've been reading this. I highly recommend it. I read this yesterday in the afternoons, and I mentioned this novel, and I saw it on a pile down the lower level, and I grabbed it the other day, and then I realized I had been reading. I read another novel of his. I collect the Europia editions, and I read one of his recent novels published by Europia called I think it was called The Long Corner, and I wanted to read something that was earlier by him, Alexandra Melchkit, and I bought this from Amazon, and I started reading it back in April 2024, and I like Europia. I have other Europia editions I have bought, and I haven't read them, and so, but if I see these used or at book sales, I'm on their, I get emails from them when they're putting stuff out. They're usually translations, but I was reading this. I'm almost finished with it, and I'll probably finish reading this weekend. You Deserve Nothing. It's a novel by Alexander Minskin. Also, I was watching a booktuber, a new guy, and he is doing a series of books on genocide. And this book came to my mind, A History of Bombing. I keep this on my table desk down the lower level, and I get it out every once in a while and I read through it. And this is by Seven Lindquist. And so I was reading this yesterday, and I'll probably read some more today. The History of Bombing. Last night, before going to bed, I have been reading also, probably I'll be reading through the weekend, the Kubanov stories by Belamor Shamaf. I'll be reading these together. I also have the second volume, Sketches of the Criminal World, further Kamenov stories. So I plan to be reading these probably until 2025, these two volumes, unless I get burnt out. So yeah, I want to finish this, The Wonder Confronts Certainty, Russian Writers on the Timeless Questions and why their answers matter. I want to finish reading this since I really enjoyed reading it. Also, I mentioned I recently bought the new Will Self kind of memoir about his mother growing up in the late 50s, Elaine by Will Self. Will Self is one of my favorite writers and intellectuals. I've been reading him, I don't know, for years. And this is his newest one. It's called Elaine. Will Self is one of the most intimal, I can't pronounce that word, contemporary writers in English language, dubbed, quote, the most daring, delightful novelist of his generation by The Guardian. In this brilliantly conceived new novel, Self turns his forensic eye and technicolor imagination to the troubled life of his mother, Elaine. So it goes on. So I got this out. I'm going to start reading this since I have finished Melville by, I can't pronounce, I just forgot his name, but you know what I'm talking about. But I also want to finish reading his last one, which is a memoir of his drug addiction, Will, by Will Self. This is supposed to be a memoir, nonfiction about his drug addiction, Will Self. And he also put out this book, I got back out from my Will Self collection. He put out Selected Writings 2001 to 2021 by Will Self. This is nonfiction. Like I was reading this. He has an essay on William Burroughs' classic novel Junkie about drug addiction, and I got that out. And he has an essay, What to Read. So these are the kind of things I'll be reading for Friday. Will Self, Selected Writings 2001, 2021, nonfiction. Nonfiction this afternoon, Wonder Confronts Certainty, Russian Writers on the Timeless Questions and Why Their Answers Matter by Gary Saul Morson. And Will by Will Self, a memoir. This weekend I'll start reading his new one, Elaine by Will Self, a novel. He says it's a novel. And reading Gulag by A History by Anne Appleton. The History of Bombing, You Deserve Nothing. I'm almost finished with this. Probably finish it at least this weekend. And this morning for devotions, I'll be reading Thomas Merton, The Inner Experience, Notes on Contemplation. And this morning for devotions, reading Carthusian Spirituality. Now, I've mentioned Also this morning, I've been writing in my paper diary. I've written 1,016 pages for the year 2024. When January the 1st, 2025 comes, if we're not under martial law, under the dictatorship of Trump, we're all rounded up and sent into concentration camps. If we're not Republican white supremacists, I'll be on page 1 of January 2025. I really have a hard time thinking that America would submit to a dictatorship. But you never really know. I don't know. We just saw there in South Korea. We thought it was a stable democracy, and there was a coup that was overthrown, and now we see in Syria Islamic radicals taking over Syria, which could lead into Lebanon, into Palestine, into Israel, and so in Iran. The world is very unstable right now. We have the Russian aggression against Ukraine, the war there that could escalate into other parts of Europe. We could see China attacking Taiwan, and we could be in a war in the Pacific with one of the largest militaries in the world. So the world is very dark. So I don't know, on January the 1st, will I be able to wake up and write down page 1? Who knows? Maybe there'll be, in the history of bombing, it goes into the history of the dropping of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima, which is very sad, but just push a button and the missiles will fly. So I mentioned the Carthusians, and I mentioned every day, every week, I go to this publisher, Alcura Press. I think it's located in Canada, and wondering when they're going to publish volume 5 and 6 of Dionysius the Carthusian's commentary on the Devaic Psalms. They were supposed to come out in the spring of 2024. And they keep saying that the guy who translated in an introduction, Andrew M. Greenwell, is editing the 5th volume. And I keep wanting it. I want to complete a set, because I have this one. I have, well, first came out, this is all translated, never been translated into English since probably, I don't know if it's ever been translated into English until recently. Dionysius the Carthusian, Commentary on Devaic Psalms, Volume 1, Psalms 1 through 25. And then he came out with Volume 2, Psalms 26 to 50, Dionysius the Carthusian. And then Volume 3. I've read these and I was really blessed, and I highly recommend them if you're into medieval Christian spirituality. Dionysius the Carthusian, Commentary on Devaic Psalms, Volume 3, Psalms 51 through 75. And then Dionysius the Carthusian, the Commentary on Devaic Psalms, Volume 4, Psalms 76 to 100. So I keep waiting to come out with Volume 5 and 6. And they're supposed to come out. You go to their website and it says it's forthcoming. So I look forward to that. So yeah, I really recommend Dionysius the Carthusian on the Psalms. And also in the Reformation Commentary series on the Psalms, and the Ancient Commentary series on the Psalms, I highly recommend, also published by InterVarsity Press. So that's my Friday reads. Yeah, I got back out Will Self, and I want to finish reading his nonfiction memoir, Will. And then I want to get into Elaine by Will Self. And I'll be reading Wonder Confronts Certainty, and reading some essays in here by Will Self. Why read? It's a good question. Why do we read? The other day I had a thought, why do I read? And I was looking back how I got when I was growing up as a child. When I was a child, I was around people who were uneducated. I don't even finish high school. And I grew up among, my mother was a barmaid when she died in a car wreck in December 1968. And there were trashy novels around, paperbacks. And I watched, when I was growing up as a child, the TV came on in the morning and it was turned off at 1 o'clock in the morning. Since my mother was a barmaid, I could stay up as late as I wanted. I was the oldest of 5, and I would stay up. I had no parental supervision growing up. But but I was thinking how I got into books. Why I read. Now I would go to, when I was growing up, there were bookmobiles. They would come into the neighborhood, and you get in this bookmobile and you could check out books. And you could check out books when you were at elementary school. And I always had, my grandfather had given me 2 Bibles, and I remember reading those. And when I was a kid, I liked talk shows. And I was very shy when I was growing up. I stuttered. You can probably see I have speech, how I talk. I don't complete sentences and I kind of ramble. But when I always stuttered. I probably do still stutter. But I got into reading, I think, as a child and as I got older because I could escape the world. I could go into another place. I could escape my environment. I could go to another place. And that's still today. I read to escape. I don't like being in this world, especially as a Christian, especially right now. As I've said, I look at the world. I'm an alien in this world. I'm a pilgrim. I'm a stranger. As a Christian, I long to go to heaven and to be with the Lord and the elect angels. I don't find this world to be my home. I really want to go to heaven and worship Jesus. I really want to be among the saints and worship Jesus, worship God. That's what I really want. And I don't want this world. Now, I'm very thankful for God's material blessings. I'm thankful that I can wake up this morning into a warm house, a full stomach. I'm thankful I can sit here in this living room and not be afraid of being bombed by Russians or missiles being shot at us from China. I'm thankful that I can buy the Carthusian spirituality, Dionysius and the Carthusians on the Psalms. I'm thankful for all God's material blessings. I'm thankful that I was born in America and not born like in some other country. I'm thankful that I can be a Christian and not fear being dragged off into some prison like in China, where there is no religious freedom for Christians to gather and worship God. So I'm thankful for, even though I'm in this world, I'm thankful for all these material things. I'm thankful that this morning we have garbage service that can come and collect our recyclables. I'm thankful that we have a police force that can keep back the barbarians, things like that. But I want to go home and be with Jesus. But going back to about reading books, yeah, I don't have to go outside the world. I can, you can, if you want to read a memoir by Will Self, you can go into another life. If you want to read about the history of bombing, if you want to read a novel, all these different worlds. Of course, you don't want to go to the gulag, but I'm saying that novels and writings enable you to escape your everyday world and go to someplace else. And I think that's what got me into reading as a child. I remember reading Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain when I was a boy, or reading about Robin Hood, or reading Don Quixote, or reading On the Road by Jack Kerouac, or reading, and then I became a Christian, and I could escape into the world that is not only the real world, the world of spirituality, the world where God dwells and where God manifests himself in Christ. And now I can focus on that world to come. And that world has become more and more real to me as I grow spiritually. So it's going on 21 minutes. This is a Friday Reads. I hope you're having a good Friday. You have a good reading weekend. Yeah, I'll be writing in my diary, and I'll be reading Carthusian Spirituality and Thomas Merton, The Inner Experience, Notes on Contemplation. Yeah, I'm thankful that I can sit in this house and contemplate. That I can sit in this house and go before God in prayer in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ to His throne of grace. And I can pray and know that God hears me because of the work of Christ on the cross, and how He died for my sins and reconciled me. And now I've been adopted into the family of God, and now that I am a child of God, a son of God, and that one day I'll be with Him and all His people and all the angels in that new creation, in that world to come. So once again, I'll sign off and pray you're all doing well. May the Lord bless. And until next time, bye.